Hi, this is Outlaw Bookseller. This is a bit of an experiment really. I'm doing this with a small Nikon camera that I normally use to take stills with. This is a Shelfie and it's just to try and give you an idea of some of the books that I have, that I've read, that I'm going to read and so on. And I'm just going to scan along here. This is a bit of a mishmash actually. This is mostly hardcovers. In fact, there's only a few paperbacks on here. And looking through them, it's mostly stuff that I've bought that I haven't read yet. Some of it I have read. It's just stuff that I can't fit in anywhere else really, and there are books behind it. So we'll just have a look along the shelf. Again, you can see there's all kinds of things there. There's SF, fantasy, crime novels, there's general literature. So just starting from this end, we'll talk you through. There's a couple of anthologies, the Legend book of science fiction there, Extra Solar, edited by Nick Gevers, which is from PS Publishing, great small press. There's the new book by Nina Allen, Good Neighbours. Hey Nina, it's a good friend of mine and great writer, which I haven't read that yet. She described it as a crime novel when she was writing it a couple of years ago. It does seem to have crime elements. That's new this year. And then A.A. Tanasio's Beast Marks, published by Zeissing, great Californian publisher. Terry Beeson's Bears Discover Fire. And then a special shout out for Scott Bradfield, who has a wonderful YouTube channel. This is Scott's first book, The Secret Life of Houses, published by Unwin back in the late 80s. Look Scott up, he's got a fantastic book channel. It's the best I've seen. Very funny guy, huge inspiration to me, and I've just reread this recently and it was really good fun. One of the stories in here is called Dazzle, and it's about a misanthropic but self-aware dog, and he's expanded that to a novel which is print on demand and you can get it on Amazon. It's really funny stuff. I really recommend that. And moving along there's a Penguin Galaxy edition of 2001, A Space Oddity, which I bought recently. Never had 2001 in hardcover. I'd like a film tie-in hardcover really, but you know, it is what it is. Michael Coney. And yes, that there is a first edition of Philip K. Dick's The Man in the High Castle. That was sent to me when I was running a mail order book selling outfit. This is before the days of the internet, by a guy who was high up in marketing in a German company, a German advertising and marketing company, and he'd spent time as a madman in Madison Avenue in New York in the 50s, and while he was over there he read lots of SF, and he sent me a box full of things, and that's a Putnam first edition there of The Man in the High Castle, which is one of my most treasured possessions, and absolutely lovely. Look at that, great stuff. Forget that terrible TV series. While we're on the subject, there's another Philip K. Dick first year. This is a UK first of Ubik, which I bought from Derek Aderman in Hay-on-Wye probably about 10-15 years ago, and my partner bought me that for my birthday. Rappan Whitting, a defunct publisher, and that's very, very uncommon now. Not the world first, of course, just the UK first. I was talking about John Calder the other day on the video I did about William Burroughs, the trilogy, and here's one of Calder's great books, The Man Who Travelled on Motorways by Trevor Hoyle, sorry, a different Hoyle. Very, very strange Ballardian novel, great book, I read it years ago. I'm going to reread that at some point, absolutely fantastic. Then one of my favourite modernist novels, which has been out of print for, well, forever, and this is the only edition I've ever seen. I know one other person who's read it. I met a customer recently in the bookshop I work who'd read it, and this is Ionesco's The Hermit. Wonderful, wonderful book in the sort of vein of Sartre, Camus, Hesse, Malaparte, all those people. Really great book. If you ever see it, pick it up. It's quite rare. It's really, really good read. There is a kind of post-apocalyptic element to it. I would really recommend you try and pick that up if you're a genre fan as well. K.W. Jeter, the very wonderful Lee Kennedy. Lee, great friend of mine. Wind Angels there, published by PS Limited Edition. Then moving on, next to that there's a book called Red Spider White Web by Misha, who is an American Indian writer. That was published by my friend Les Escott in Morrigan Books, and that's about 30 years ago. Logan's Run in full leatherette there. I was selling this at work until comparatively recently, and hardly anybody, it seems, has read the novel, which is very different to the TV series and the film. It's really good. Pick it up if you can. It's great fun. They've got a really interesting staccato style, quite a lot of bondage and whipping and things like that in it. It's a sexy book, and this is a really nice leatherette edition. Next to that, I'll just slip that back in there if I can, is a wonderful, wonderful novel by Jeremy Reed, who's primarily a poet. He's written lots of books about rock and roll, things like that as well. It's a real underground figure. And this is his, you could say it's a Bowie book. It was originally going to be entitled Bowie Ballad Warhol, and it's a kind of surreal science fiction novel set on Mars. It's called Diamond Nebula. Bowie Ballad Warhol was the working title. And there's only been a trade paperback of this, and it's all about the iconography of Bowie, Ballard and Warhol, and it's published by the wonderful Peter Owen. I knew Peter when he was alive, great publisher, did so much for avant-garde publishing in this country. Then there's a few Adam Roberts limited editions, mostly from PS, one from Newcon, a Silverberg Crime limited there from PS again, a bit more Silverberg. There's one paperback here. This is Lame Fate and Ugly Swans by the Strugatsky brothers, which is really, really good. And Ugly Swans is a novel which is nested within Lame Fate. And at the moment, this is published by, who the devil are these people? It's got a chair on the corner. It's Chicago Review Press. There's great American publishers. They're out there. And that's a good one if you can get. Michael Swanwick, Peter Tremaine. And there's some fairly new books. There's a set of Martha Wells's, the first 4 novellas in the Murderbot series, which are really popular. They're not published in the UK. These are great fun. They're not normally the sort of thing I go for. There's All Systems Red. Martha's won all sorts of awards. She's really popular. The kids love her. And I really enjoyed these. Once she moved to novel length, they just didn't do it for me. A book that's proving quite hot at the moment, the really colourful book next to that is Elia Whiteley's Skyward Inn from Solaris. Probably one of the most substantial things Solaris have done this year. Then a hard case crime book by Donald E. Westlake, one of my favourite crime writers. Colin Wilson's The Space Vampires. Then another of my obsessions is Italian crime fiction, and this is the Cocaine Anthology, 3 novellas by Massimo Carlotto, Gianrico Carafiglio and Giancarlo de Cataldo, the 3 best Italian crime writers. And never mind Montalbano, this is the real thing, hard-boiled stuff, and that's from Macklehose, great publisher. And then right at the end, there's a couple of proofs from Jake Arnott. There's the original proof copy of The Long Firm with a promotional postcard in there. That has a different text to the published version, which was never hardcovered and was a bestseller, of course. Jake's a great guy. And the same thing happened again with Johnny Come Home. And there's a little article there from the bookseller telling us that Sceptre were forced to pay out over Arnott book. Sceptre, of course, was an imprint of Hodder and Stoughton, and the text of that one had to be changed for legal reasons because somebody's name had been used inadvertently, so it had to be pulled. So both of those are the true first editions, neither had hardcovers. I'm going to talk about Jake and talk about those books again. So there's a little shelfie for you. A lot of these I said I haven't read, some of them I have read, all sorts of stuff there, give you an idea of the breadth of what I'm into. This is Outlaw Bookseller signing out, and remember, call it SF, don't call it